What's up, Auburn? Pastor Crespo here with Pastor Dustin Hall once again for the Try Jesus Auburn podcast. Well, we're glad to be here with you. Pastor Dustin, good to see you. How you doing?
You too? Doing well?
We're here to start something that's really I was going to say start something new. It's not something new. We've been doing the podcast for a while, but we're adding a new feature to the episodes, right?
Yes.
We were at the Booker T. Washington Back to School event just not too many days ago. Had a great time there. We took a bunch of questions from families. You know, there were people that came through, and we got a chance to talk to them. And so this series, I guess I don't know if we can call it a series, but these different episodes are really a response to the questions that they asked. And I thought they were some pretty good questions, Dustin. That's why I'm going to let you answer them all. some of them were pretty tough. What'd you think about
They
the
were
event?
really good. It was great. It
Yeah.
was great. It was a great event. We saw about 400 families. I know more people than family. I mean, there was lots of families that went through. There must have been, I don't know, 1,000 people that went through before it was all said and done, because I know about 400 kids got back to school packages, backpacks and pencils and things. And so we had a booth out there, and we talked to a lot of the kids and their parents, and that's where we got a lot of these questions that we're going to answer over the next several weeks. And then we also had our special event at the same time going on for the local district teachers, and we had far more teachers than we ever even dreamed would come.
This was something that was never done before there. This was your brainchild. You wanted to honor teachers. I was blown away by the response. There was a ton.
Incredible. Yeah, it was amazing. We were so blessed to have so many teachers come out. I think there was about 150 teachers. We didn't have nearly enough supplies to get them all a pack, but we're working on doing some fundraising to catch up with these teachers throughout the school year so that we can get them a gift, because they make such a difference in our community, and we want to be a blessing to them.
That's right. And we're going to be ready. We're going to be ready for next year.
You know what they told me, Miguel? They said that they get $100 to spend in their classroom every year, and they can only spend it through to certain vendors.
Oh, wow.
So there's only approved vendors that they can even spend their $100 with. So the fact that we were doing something, no strings attached, they're saying nobody's ever done anything like this for us before. So
wow.
It was a blessing to be there.
Yeah, it was great. I loved interacting with all the people that went through, and we basically so let's set this up. And by the way, I'm looking forward to doing this event next year. We're going to be ready with more stuff, but
yes,
let's set this up. So we have a series of questions. Dustin, Pastor Hall, you were there. The question that we were sharing or asking people as they were walking through was this: if you could ask God one question, what would that question be? Now, I don't know if I need to say this, but I'm going to anyway. All of the young people that we recorded, we got permission from their parents. There were families going through. So, we tried to respect their privacy. We asked them, and then it wasn't until they agreed that they had a question that we were able to record them. But these were children with their parents walking through, so we had their permission. So, Dustin, as I said, I know as we go through this, there are going to be some questions that I'm going to. I want to see how I want to see you squirm on some of them. I think. I don't know if this one is going to make you squirm or not, but you better give it an answer if this person is watching. So, are you ready? We have the video.
Yes.
I want to bring that up. Okay, and let's see here. All right, here it comes. Tell me your name first.
My name is Evelyn Kidrew.
Evelyn?
Yes.
Okay, what's your question? And there's the camera.
Okay, why did you make a giraffe and not a unicorn instead?
Good question. Okay, I have a comment, but I'm going to hold on. I'm going to let you answer this question. Evelyn wants to know, Dustin, why did God make a giraffe instead of a unicorn?
Well, my answer to that is, and I said this to her on the day, was who says God didn't make a unicorn? Because the Bible actually mentions unicorns multiple times. So I'll give you some verses here. Numbers 23, 22, 24, 8, Deuteronomy 33, 17, Job 39, 9 and 10, Psalm 22, 21, Psalm 29 and verse 6, Isaiah 34, verse 7. If you want those, email us. We'll get you those verses.
Yeah, you went
But
through them kind of quick, so we want to make sure.
Yeah.
TryJesusAuburn.com. We'll get those texts to you. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And so multiple times the Bible, the Old Testament, refers to unicorns. And the newer translations of the Bible, they actually changed the word to wild oxen. But traditionally, the word that's used there was unicorn back in the day. And so the reason that the newer translations have changed it to wild oxen is because people thought that it was too fanciful and hard to believe because of the way that we think of unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
We think of unicorns as these, My Little Pony with a horn, little, fantasy type creatures. But actually, science has shown us multiple times that there are unicorn-like creatures and beasts. People can actually Google the Siberian unicorn.
I'm going to do that after the show. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There were multiple types of species like this that look horse-like with one horn, and they say that they were the ancestors of modern-day oxen. And
Really?
some of them were alive even up until about the 1600s. And they went extinct around the 1600s. So people can Google that and find that. So unicorns are not necessarily a fantasy type animal, if you want to believe that, if you can believe that.
So it was more akin to an early rhinoceros?
Not really a rhinoceros. I guess you could, if you look at the pictures of them, I guess they would be like a cross between a horse and a rhinoceros.
Okay.
Because they have hair, they look like they could be an oxen or oxen-like, but they have longer necks and longer snouts, kind of like a horse.
Okay.
So probably what happened was over the years, they took this animal and it became what we now know as a horse with a horn.
Yeah.
But so interestingly enough, unicorns are not just a fantasy creature.
Well, so listen, we need to be careful. Pastor Dustin, his opinions are his own. They're not necessarily mine or of this podcast. Pastor Dustin is are you telling people that unicorns exist?
They did at one time. Yeah, they did.
Well,
I mean, science proves it. Just look it up.
I will do that. I will do that. You've absolutely given me food for thought here.
Yeah.
What happened to the unicorns?
What happened to the unicorns? So the animals that were named unicorns, they became extinct.
Yeah.
So around the 1600s, like I was saying, the last known animal that potentially could have been called unicorns went extinct in the 1600s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I think the question, I try to wonder what the reasoning was behind the question. Did she favor unicorns over giraffes? She didn't think that the giraffes were majestic enough, or what? What do you think was the reasoning behind the question there?
I think what she was getting at is, why did you make the animals that you did? Why are they like the way they are? Why a giraffe, not a unicorn? Why a monkey, not a whatever, flying monkey, whatever. So I think that's kind of what she was getting at, and it's a really good question. And so what people don't realize is that the animals that we have now are not the same animals that they had throughout all biblical times.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we have a vast variety of species, and back in biblical times, they probably didn't have such a wide variety of species. And the way that we can understand that is because God saved the animals, one of 2 by 2 of every kind, and 7 of the clean animals, which were the animals for eating and sacrifice and things like that. 7 of those, 2 of every other kind. If there were as many different species back then as there are today, they would not have all fit on Noah's Ark.
Right. So then the question is this: and maybe if someone's not familiar with Noah's Ark, so can we just take just a 30 seconds to, the Bible tells the story that man's wickedness was so great that he was going to destroy the world with a flood, and he had a man named Noah build an ark, and in the ark he put in these animals to kind of live beyond the flood. But you're saying if we put in all the animals that exist today, or a representation of each animal, they would never have fit in the ark. So then,
Right.
can you explain that? Explain a little bit about how do you go from, well, how long was the ark?
So the
It
ark,
was a couple of
as
football
far
fields,
as we
wasn't it?
can tell, it talks about cubits, and for people that aren't familiar with what a cubit is, it's about the length from your elbow to the tip of your finger. That was about a cubit.
Yeah.
And so the ark was about 510 feet long.
Okay.
So that's as far as we can tell. And actually, I think it's in Kentucky. People can visit the model of the ark that somebody's built out there. It's pretty incredible. So that sounds huge. I mean, that's a huge boat. I mean, a football field's 300 feet long. So it's more than 1.5 football fields long.
Yeah.
But still, if you think about it, all the species on all the face of the earth still would not have all fit on that boat if it's only 510 feet long. So
How do you explain that then, Dustin? How do you go from being in the ark? Because now we're kind of switching a little bit. We went from a question about giraffes and unicorns. Now we're talking about animals in general. Then we go into the ark. It's like, where do these animals come from then?
Well, the answer is, and this may shock people, but the answer is evolution.
Okay. So again, the views expressed on this podcast are Pastor Dustin. No, go ahead. Explain. I know what you're getting at. So tell our family here what you mean when you say that.
So a lot of people think Christians are anti-science, or they're anti-evolution, and really that's not the case. The way that we have all of the variety of species and all the differences in the animals is because of what's called microevolution. So that's talking about subtle changes over time based on the animal's environment and natural selection within their own environment. So those things change these species over time and create different traits and changes in these animals to give us a wider variety of what we have. What I don't believe in, and what I believe the Bible doesn't teach, is macroevolution. And what that teaches is that one species can change into another species. And that's never been witnessed. No scientists have ever created it in the lab. That's just completely theory. No one's ever seen that happen or observed it, because I don't believe that it actually does.
Right.
But what we can do is we can say, okay, in the beginning when God created perfect animals, but a lot less variety of those animals. And within the DNA of those animals was this ability to have such diversity across the animal kingdom. And as time went on, and as the environments changed, and as natural selection took place, those varieties began to expand and show up. So giraffes became giraffes the way we know of them because of some ancestor that God created in Eden, preserved on the ark, and it became what we now know of as the giraffe.
Right.
And even amongst the giraffe world, depending on where they're at in the world, sometimes their necks are longer, sometimes their necks are shorter. Elephants are the same way. Sometimes they're a little bigger, a little smaller, a little taller, a little shorter, just depending on where they're at. And so we see that across the animal kingdom. So we have the animals we have and the variety that we have because of natural selection and microevolution.
So let me, Dustin, I want to ask you a question. So first of all, Evelyn, if hopefully you're watching this podcast, your question: God did make a unicorn, right?
He did. Yes.
so you're going to need to study that out. Get in touch with Pastor Dustin. He's got all the information that you need. He's in his walking encyclopedia. But let me. I want to kind of take. I have a question for you, Dustin. You brought
Yeah.
this up, this issue of evolution. That there's a part of evolution that is true, but then it's a step too far to say that one species changes into another. And of course, if we're saying, for example, that men evolved from monkeys, let's say, can I ask you a question? And I hate to kind of throw this at you like this. The question that I have, and I'm trying to think maybe from the perspective of Evelyn, what is the big deal in if we want to believe in evolution? Does that impact the Christian teaching at all? And not the what do you call it, macroevolution? This idea that this deer that live in certain places end up with shorter legs, longer legs, more fur, less fur, based on their environment, what have you. But that men could have evolved from these primates or animals. What would be the big deal in believing that? Or maybe it's okay to believe that. How would you answer that, say, for Evelyn, if she was asking that question?
It's a good question. So there's a few ways. One would be, I would say, if we're all just here by chance, then we don't really have a purpose. So like if we just evolved out of primordial ooze, like in the beginning, and there was just this stuff floating out there in space, and it all came together in just the right way. Our life happened by accident. We're here by accident. So we really have no purpose. But I think in all of us, we sense a deeper understanding that we're made for something better. We're made for something. And we see that even when we have funerals. At every funeral, I say, why are we weeping? The world tells us that we're all just here by chance. Life is just a big accident. And so if that was true, why do we cry when somebody dies? Well, we cry when somebody dies because we know we're made for a place where there's no death. We know that we're not supposed to have those separations. And so we also know deep within us that there's a greater purpose. God has a reason for us to be alive, and he wants a relationship with us. So if we just all happen by chance, there's really no reason for us to be alive. And all sorts of things come off from that, like morality and how we should live and the way we should live our lives and treat each other. And if it's all by chance, there's really no rules. And good rules, not the rules that we don't like, but the good rules that keep us safe. There's no rules. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would say is Jesus believed in creation, and Jesus believed in stories like Noah's Ark because he refers to them. He talks about Noah. He talks about creation and Adam. And so if Jesus says that he's God, and Jesus says Noah existed, Jesus says that Adam existed, he is affirming that. So to say that you don't believe in creation is to say that you believe Jesus was misinformed or incorrect or wrong or lying, whatever it might be.
Right.
So it throws off our whole understanding and trust in the Bible, but also Jesus. So there's that personal aspect of, if we just evolve from nothing, there's really no purpose for us being alive. But I believe there is a purpose, and God gave it to us when he created us in his image. And the other thing is, Jesus believed in creation. He believed in Noah. And if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Absolutely. And I think, if you are tempted to believe all this evolution stuff in terms of, men evolving from these lower forms of life, where is God in all this? Evolution pushes God out. And he was the one that made all of this. So awesome. Well, listen, thank you, Pastor. Is there anything you want to say to Evelyn before we wrap up?
Thanks for the question. Send in more.
That's right. And where can they go to send in questions, Pastor Dustin?
TryJesusAuburn.com. And we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. If you have questions, put them on one of our posts. We can collect them there too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Evelyn, I hope you've been listening. God did not choose between the giraffe and the unicorn, according to Dustin Hall. And he is kind of smart. He made both.
He did.
God bless.